Good evening. I would like to call to order the public meeting of August 5th, 2025. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Good evening, Lower Moreland Township School District community. I hope everyone's enjoying an enjoyable and healthy summer. My name is Dr. James Lee. Thank you for attending this evening's meeting of the Lower Moreland Board of School Directors. I'd like to remind our board, as well as members of the public, that this meeting is being live streamed on our district YouTube channel and that a recording of the meeting will be posted on our school board website within 48 hours. I welcome my fellow board members and members of the public. To our board members, please be reminded that for sound purposes, you must turn on your microphone and speak directly into it for the sound to be audible both for in-person community members in the auditorium, but also for anyone listening on the live stream. After speaking, please mute your microphone by tapping the touchpad. Ms. Ovington, would you please take a roll call of the board?
Certainly. Mrs. Baker?
Present.
Mr. Berardi? Ms. Blanton?
Present.
Dr. Butler?
Present.
Ms. Cannon? Ms. Darian?
Present.
Mr. Geiger?
Present.
Dr. Lee?
Present.
Mr. McGee?
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now ask Dr. Best to take a roll call of cabinet members and administrators who will be participating this evening.
Sure. Mrs. Galdo. Present. Dr. Hemrick.
Present.
Mr. Giordano.
Present.
Mrs. Ovington.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Best. That will take us to our one presentation for this evening. This will be from our friends at the ICS company for the conceptual design presentation of the sports stadium.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us here tonight. I'm Tim Geider with ICS. We have a few other team members here with me tonight to provide you with an overview of the stadium conceptual design and the site analysis that we did for the stadium at the Murray Ave School. Cody West from ICS, Mike O'Rourke from GKO Architects, and then we have Zach Ranstead from T&M Associates, our civil engineer. Do I have to click this, or? Okay. Okay. So here's our agenda for tonight. We'll start with a discussion around the potential improvements and the scope considerations for the existing site and the athletic programs. Provide an overview of the concepts we developed and touch on some of the zoning and site-related items to be addressed with a potential project. From there, we'll review some scoping and phasing options for consideration and the associated budgets for those options, and then we'll wrap up with some potential next steps and some Q&A. So earlier this year, we were hired to do this assessment, and to kick it off, we really started by gathering all the existing plans, performed site visits to review and confirm existing conditions, and engaged your administration and athletic director through surveys and several meetings to really understand the existing issues with the current setup on the site. Then we had developed initial concepts, modified those concepts based on the zoning analysis performed by our civil engineer, and reviewed the district administration reviewed with the administration for feedback and refinement. After we developed the entire athletic master plan, we broke it up into multiple phases to provide the district with flexibility in terms of budget and also timing for the work. Some of those priorities that came out of those discussions are shown here. I'll just step through these quickly. An additional turf field really would allow for some flexibility with the scheduling issues that you run into with the fields currently. Definitely need for more space for athletics with the teams competing for times, especially in the fall seasons. The track area is nearing the end of its useful life. It needs to be repaired or replaced in the near future. And then the lack of home and away locker rooms on the site really, it's not ideal for the site to have the visiting team and the home team kind of using the existing Murray Ave hallways and some areas around the maintenance shops, to reconvene during halftime. And then the public restrooms right now, the fans and visitors have to use the restrooms inside the building. They're far away from the grandstands and also could be potential security risk with being inside the building. Also, accessibility from the existing parking areas with the steep slope getting down to the fields. Also, the distance to the grandstands is also a concern. The press box, PA system speakers are all outdated and should be updated. So really collectively, we came up with some ideas around a field house that would alleviate a lot of these issues. It would include locker rooms, restrooms, concession areas, and additional storage, and also a raised platform area, which Mike O'Rourke's going to speak about shortly, which would allow accessible viewing of the games. Also, the long jump, addition of a long jump area would allow for the track and field team to better compete with some of the other local teams. And there's definitely, could be expanded grandstands as well, just to support additional spectators. And then lastly, the water service at the concession area and around the field is lacking. So that would be helpful to provide with any of these options that we have. I'll pass it on to Mike to go through some of the concepts that we developed.
Thanks, Tim. After listening to the school district's needs for the stadium area, ICS, TNM, and GK have collaborated on a master plan. This first image you're looking at shows the existing conditions. You have a regular grass field in the middle, football field. You have a synthetic track that goes around that is in need of repair, resurfacing. You have a section of grandstands, a small concession stand area, some play fields, and a few track event venues. The existing Murray Avenue School is the brown area to the top, and there are parking lots on either side of Murray Avenue School. The main lot that's connected currently down to the stadium is about 8 feet higher than the level of the stadium field. So we've been working on this master plan together. We have options for the field, as Tim mentioned. One option is to put in a synthetic play field in the middle of the stadium. We've also looked at, you'll see some pricing options where we don't do that. The track definitely is in need of resurfacing, so that's something we've included in our master plan. In order to make the ADA access work from the upper parking lot, which as I mentioned is about 8 feet higher than the field area itself, we came up with the idea of a raised promenade, which would also be an interesting overlook during a game or something like that. And there are ramps that go off that promenade down to the level of the fields, which is providing the ADA access. There are also stairways for direct access as well. The promenade area is this section right here. And you can see a ramp here and a ramp coming right down here, and then straight steps also down to the field area. The new field house is proposed to be located here, and we're adding one a track event, pole vault area to the program as well. There was, as Tim mentioned, there's also a need for a visitor's grandstand, so we would be proposing, we separate it from the existing stands, but next to the grandstands there for the visitors. We've looked at a couple different options for the field house itself. The field house would comprise locker rooms for home and visiting teams, a new concession stand area, which might be here, and a bank of public restrooms. They would all be accessed from the raised promenade. So if you're coming from the stands here, you would go up this ramp and arrive at this location. You could get to the concession stand from there. And as I was mentioning, this whole overlook would provide an interesting view to the stadium field itself. There was also a new scoreboard. It's kind of hard to see, but it would be part of this promenade here facing towards the stands. And the existing scoreboard would also remain. There would also be some field storage as part of that field house and a new ticket booth and security fencing that would run around here. We also looked at a second version of the field house, which would allow the school district to phase the field house construction, if you wish, into two different phases. One where you would maybe start with the restrooms and the ADA access promenade, and the remainder of the field house could be phased and built at another time if you wish. And this is another option we looked at for the pole vault event, which could be on the field itself.
Thanks, Mike. Good to see you all again. Cody West with ICS. So part of the study also included, once these concepts were developed, we wanted to make sure that, they're buildable from a zoning and site feasibility standpoint. So Zach's team from T&M performed a site analysis, as part of the overall study, which includes base zoning district ordinance review, overlay district ordinance review, parking ordinance review, and then specific use regulations. And if there's any specific questions, Zach is better suited to answer them, I assure you. So these are just high level. You all will receive more detail on the analysis that was performed as part of the full report. So this is just a summary. But once a project like this goes into design and implementation, these are some of the items that would need to be either addressed with part of the design or with relief from the township. So that's the specific pole vault location that was within the side setback that was shown on the previous, if you could go back just one more slide here. You can see the pole vault location is kind of close to this side yard here. The other is this visitors bleachers, also located close to, and then parking. So we're currently under-parked, we'll say, for the existing conditions, which is not necessarily a bad thing, which typically, so long as you have enough parking for an event, it's better from a stormwater management standpoint, environmental standpoint, to not, add too much parking, which typically in this condition, the ordinance requires more parking than what's there existing. And the other item is lighting. So we have lighting, stadium lighting budgeted as part of this concept. There's a pretty significant requirement in the zoning for athletic lighting. That's a 600-foot setback, so that would definitely require relief as part of a project if it were to be implemented. The last item, and I'll jump forward here, has to do with the flood conservation overlay. Just the grading and stormwater work associated with the project. We'll need to take the existing flood conservation overlay into consideration, and I'll show an overall site plan that was developed by T&M here, where you can see, the adjacent properties, their how they're zoned, as well as the large blue swath there in the bottom left corner showing the flood conservation overlay. And so as far as implementation, we've looked at this, as a team with the administration on sort of all of the different ways that you could skin the cat, let's say, as far as actually building this project or a project of this scale. This is an example of implementing over 3 phases. So the first phase is focused on the track, the field, and a slight refresh of the existing concession building, because the field house and concessions and that are not built until a future phase. Second phase shows the kind of grandstands work, some stadium lighting, some of the other infrastructure improvements like the press box and scoreboard, et cetera. And the third phase being the field house, promenade, et cetera. So again, this is just one look at how you might implement a project of this scale, and this is another look. This is an option that does not include the synthetic turf field, and that would focus more on the track, the field house, the pole vault, and the ADA access in the first phase. And the second phase would be lighting and grandstands and that sort of effort. So we used these 2 options to kind of develop budgets, and I'll let Tim Geider speak to that. Thank you.
Okay, so all of the phasing, everything that you've seen here, we kind of rolled that up into this one slide here that summarizes it all. And again, you can look at different ways that you could potentially do these projects, even if you decide to do them all, maybe over time in phases, or if you decide not to do the synthetic turf field, you can go with the grass option. But these options just provide flexibility. We know that they're big numbers, right? And we know that there's always competing interests for funding that districts have. So we're showing here the baseline scenario is assuming that you did everything that we just talked about all at one time, and our budget would be about $12.7 million. This would be the synthetic turf, this would be the stadium lighting, press box, scoreboard, the renovations of the grandstands, and the field house and promenade area, doing it all in one shot. The second option that we show here is it's option 1A with the synthetic turf field, broken up into 3 phases like Cody mentioned. Phase 1 with the synthetic turf at about $4.6 million with the track as well. And then phase 2 really focusing on the grandstands and the press box and some of those other areas at $3.8 million. And then lastly, the field house and raised promenade area at $6.5 million. So that total is $14.9. Obviously, phasing it, you don't get the cost efficiencies, so it's a little bit more to do it that way. But the nice thing about that is you could choose to just do phase 1 or phase 1 and phase 2, and then you can always come back to phase 3 at a later date. The last option, in discussions with the administration, we know that there might be priorities with synthetic turf field, or maybe it's the field house. So we wanted to give an option that was putting more of the priority into the field house and less in the synthetic turf field. So you could see in the grass field option, phase 1 basically gives you all the site work, the track resurfacing, the press box scoreboard, and the field house and the raised promenade for about $8.3 million. And then a second phase could be the stadium lighting and then the grandstand renovations for another 2.7, totaling $11 million. So again, these are just kind of scenarios that we've put out here. They're for the informational purposes, for consideration by the board. There's no recommendations tonight to move forward with anything. But next steps would be really to consider these project options. We owe a final report, which we'll be sending to the district shortly, and we can continue to refine this together. But consider these options, develop a funding approach if you want to proceed with one of these, if it fits in with your long-range capital planning. And then once the final scope and the idea is finalized, I think we'd come back and discuss the actual timeline to implement this and the final budget for that selected option. But based on this, we've got some durations here. Design could take upwards of 12 months when it's design plus land development and permitting. You've got another 3 months for bidding, and then somewhere between 6 and 12 months for construction, depending on how you phase it. It could take longer, but generally about a 2-year window to get some of the work done. So we just wanted to put that out there so that the board is prepared and the administration has the information to make a decision on at some future date. With that, I think we'll just open it up for questions.
I have a question. And you said that you just have enough parking, but what happens when you have, events and there isn't enough parking?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the parking? Sure. Okay.
Hi, I'm Zach Ranstead from T&M. The spirit of the zoning ordinance would have all the required parking under a maximum scenario on the site, but then if you're only talking about event parking that might happen on weekends or certain nights of the week, you'd have the parking lot sitting there empty most of the time. So with the ample parking over here on the high school property, we would seek relief so that we don't have to provide all the parking for the maximum use on the Murray site, at the Murray site. And that would get into a detailed study of exactly how much parking Murray needs and how much is available at the high school and the walking distance. And you'd essentially get a traffic sub-consultant to come in and testify on behalf of your case.
Okay, also, I have a question. We had left Murray Avenue intact with the understanding that maybe someday that could be used instead of a field house, that could be used as the bathrooms and things like that. So that would lower the cost at some point. Is there any consideration that we could still do that renovate the bathrooms there as in the existing structure so that it wouldn't be part of a field house and we could lower the cost?
I would send that back to the...
That could be done. We would need to make sure there was a truly accessible pathway to those bathrooms from the stadium area. Obviously, the security aspects would not be solved without a remote field house. And you'd still have the issues with where the visitors would go at halftime for football and things like that.
I don't understand. Could you explain that again?
You could utilize and renovate existing restrooms in the Murray Avenue School. You would need to provide an accessible way to get to the school from the stadium area, which could be done. But you would still not be addressing the fact that there's this potential security aspects of having the public go into that school, for athletic events. And also the locker room issues of the home and visiting teams. Where would the visiting teams go?
So is that something that you could pursue, that you could look at and think about? Because wouldn't that substantially lower the cost of a field house if you could use at least the bottom floor and then renovate the bathrooms?
Yes, that could be taken into consideration,
Okay.
absolutely.
Like, what is your guesstimate on what you would save on that? Because a field house would be pretty substantial and part of the cost.
I would say at least half the cost. There would still be, as I mentioned, a lot of work associated with the ADA access and renovating toilet rooms and trying to make sure that the security aspects of having the public into a portion of that school was was solved. But yes, that could be studied.
Thank you.
Did I hear correctly that for lighting purposes, we need relief between the school and what is the track now? Are we moving the track and the football field?
The ordinance is 600 feet from the property line, right? So, yeah, 600 feet from the property line. Basically, if you looked back at the map, you wouldn't be able to put lighting except for maybe in the center of the field, which isn't where you would put it, right? So, that's typically one of the items that we would need to pursue strongly with the township, to get relief on. And it's not something that you can, 600 feet is not something you can usually work around with a field like this on the property lines that you have. Yeah, we wouldn't, like, none of these options have moving the field around. It's staying in the same location, yep.
But if we're talking about lights, we're going to have to either get an accommodation from the township or move the track and field.
Or not do lights is the other option, right?
And we haven't had pole vault in 20 years. I don't know that that's a major factor in terms of cost, but
Yeah.
its placement isn't optimal, first of all.
Yeah, so the
And
way
it's just from a safety standpoint.
Yep. I think the approach that we took was, let's put it all out on the table and try to solve all the problems that we know the athletic programs have on that site. And again, we can always move things in and out depending on priority, right? Our understanding is that the track and field team loses points by not being able to offer that currently. So that's why that was considered and added.
Before other board members ask, I have a follow-up question for the relief about the lights. Could you provide us your experience as to how other townships have potentially dealt with, I'm sure, similar light ordinances? And essentially, does it boil down to the township providing relief, potentially in objection to the residents in the area? Or like, how could things play out?
So the lighting is one of the items of most consideration here, and it's ultimately going to come down to politics. You look at who's near the lights, what properties are near the lights. Like, for example, to plan south, you've got the Fredericks property and a forest. So in that direction, there's not going to be much spillover. To plan north, there are some residences on the other side of Murray School. You'd have to get into studies of like cutoff angles and what type of lights you're using. And if you get relief, there's probably going to be a lot of regulation on exactly how late they can be operated and when they're operated, so that the township can come in and enforce if it turns into a nuisance or they get a lot of complaints about it. So it's a loaded question, and there's a lot of unknowns going into that arena.
Excuse me, a couple questions. Just regard to the lights, does this assessment include looking for newer, more focused, narrow beam lights, things like that, that are less, have less light pollution? And
That would absolutely be part of the analysis. Perhaps you could look at lighting the field more so from one direction than another that would be less offensive to the maximum number of properties.
second question was, do you guys have any estimates as to yearly maintenance or upkeep costs for these various options?
That's a good question. We haven't dug into that at this point. We have previously done some analysis where we look at, what it takes to maintain grass fields versus turf fields and the, life cycle cost analysis. So that's something that we could certainly look into as well and help provide some information on.
I have two questions. One is, can you explain the need for excavation and grading if we were to go with a grass field versus synthetic, and like why we would need to do that since it's now grass? We'll start with that one.
I'll take the first. I'll take the first pass at that question, and then I'll let Zach follow up. So the flood conservation zone, which the property abuts, has specific requirements on how close and how steep the grading can be as part of the project. The stormwater management is also affected because there's additional stormwater requirements on how you manage the flow coming off of your property once the project is done.
Mm-hmm.
So specific to synthetic turf versus grass, there's more stormwater requirements associated with the synthetic turf than the grass turf, the natural turf. So there would be less costs associated with a natural turf field over synthetic when it comes to stormwater, but would still be requirements specific to that.
Because we're changing it?
Yes.
It would like trigger that we have to then meet?
Correct.
Okay, right.
We're going to potentially add some parking, some additional impervious surfaces, walkways and track surface and buildings. But the natural turf would have less impact than synthetic.
Thank you.
One other factor is the excess fill that I believe came from the high school project that is on that lower area and where we're having the field house. Our idea was that we could utilize that fill, but we'd have to engineer it, put it back in lifts and compact it so it could take the loads of the building. So that's part of it as well.
Great. Thank you. My other question was something that was, I don't know if it was shared with you all, but related to the scheduling of using the field. One consideration that we had was needing fencing or some sort of netting around the turf field because the use that was intended might have track athletes and field hockey athletes using the facility at the same time. So to protect one or the other from flying equipment. Was that something that you looked at?
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's not something that's come up in our conversations
Okay.
yet, unless you guys had okay. So, yeah, it's something that we can look into as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
I had a follow-up question. I think Mr. Renstead, you presented to us before and you provided a very comprehensive presentation about stormwater drainage and also some of the findings that you did on your survey for pipes and other things from under the field. Were these taken into account into the excavation estimates?
I believe they were. So we're going to be entering the land development review process with the township, and we'll be disturbing more than an acre, so we'll need a permit from the county conservation district. And there's codes related to adequacy of receiving downstream conveyance. And in our review of this, there are some deficiencies in the downstream conveyance that we'll need to investigate further and perhaps even reach out to adjoining properties to coordinate with them to make some nominal offsite improvements. That's just what we have here. And ultimately, the water is all trying to make its way to Huntington Valley Creek. It's just not doing it through either swales or storm sewer of adequate capacity right now from the view of the regulators, and we'll have to work through a process with them to determine what will be satisfactory.
In your opinion, do you feel, given the addition of these impervious surfaces and buildings, that this would be a tackable problem that can be solved? Or?
It's not insurmountable. The fact that you have a mix of residential and like a light industrial property, it gives some advantages here. It's one thing if you're going completely through residences' rear yards. It's another if there's other properties involved that might be more receptive to improvements.
Yeah, a lot of my colleagues asked questions I was thinking, so mine are limited. Obviously, it's a high price, no matter whether you do it one time, over 2 years or 3 years, you know, the design of the field house, concessions, and everything else, are they, you know, are at max capacity? I mean, is there a way to get a field house, but not as large? It looked pretty large, but I mean, I guess you're just going with what you've done in the past, what's sort of standard, and going with that, not smaller. But is there, is this designed large that might be able to be brought down in size?
The answer is yes, it could be reduced. The thing that was really sized was the public restroom, a portion of this with the capacity of the grandstands. Could the concession stand be made smaller? Yes. Could the locker room facilities be made a little smaller? Possibly, yes.
Yeah. It's a nice design. I like what you did, just trying to get it within budget is going to be a huge challenge, but thank you. No, it's, and yeah, I think the discussion about lighting and the neighbors and water is going to be probably, and then of course we have to discuss, you know, turf versus grass. I know there's some folks on this board who probably have different opinions. You know, do all the different school districts that you work with, are they, can you tell us what they use? Are there any that have grass? Are they all turf? What do you know? What kind of information can you give us about what other schools have?
We're seeing most school districts going to synthetic turf for the main stadium field, but there are still districts that have natural grass. Obviously, you just get more wear and tear,
right?
You know, ability to have more practices, more sporting events when you have a synthetic turf.
Right. But the maintenance cost is higher for grass, am I right?
Correct.
Seeding and watering and all that. Okay.
Correct.
Which we don't know. That's not part of this proposed budget. That'll be just ongoing costs after year one and year two.
That's correct.
Okay. Can you give an idea how much it would be, just a guesstimate, a ballpark estimate of how much more it would be to maintain a grass field versus a turf field?
I think as a team we could come up with that number, especially once a general concept is put together. But we can certainly do that for the synthetic turf.
Yeah, it'd be good to know. Thank you.
Just in breaking numbers down, it appears that the turf field is a $4 million outlay, whereas grass is going to cost us along the way, and that's really not included in numbers. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, but by no means would the expected maintenance be, of a grass field, be $4 million over 20 years. So
and I think that's what Steve's asking.
Yeah,
just a ballpark, what would it?
Yeah.
Is it a quarter of that?
I wouldn't want to throw a number out right now
Okay.
because I'd be wrong. So I'd rather go back and look into it and get back to you. Yep.
And the other number, looking at the field house, breaking that down in that third phase is 2.7 with the field house, and what was the other piece in there?
Yeah, the 2.7 is the stadium lighting
And the
controls and
grandstands.
the grandstands, yeah.
What would that be with just the grandstands if we didn't do a field house, let's say?
So just the grandstands, no lighting? Is that what?
Well, that lighting was actually in the previous phase, isn't it?
Yeah. So what was it, about 800,000 or something for the lighting? Do you remember? So you're trying to understand what the
That
cost of just...
2.7, how much of it is field house, how much of it is grandstand?
Well, the field house is actually in the $8.3 million number, right? The phase one in that scenario, option 1B.
Okay, breaking that down,
Yeah,
I'm still looking at the numbers
Sure.
on the field house.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that we can break this out like into an à la carte type, just for a little more granular detail for the board, for sure. and include that in the final report so that that can be used in, prioritization of what a first phase or what a project as a whole might look like.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and is there interest from the board to, where we broke the field house into the two pieces to kind of break that out into the restrooms and the, okay. Yeah.
I'm also in agreement. I'd like to see like an itemized list of, because it
Sure.
looks very global right now.
Yeah, and I do also want to clarify one thing that Mr. Geiger had asked about or had mentioned. The Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, if you see the note at the bottom, all of these numbers include cost escalation. So the baseline is escalated 2 years. And then Phase 2 and 3 are escalated 4 and 6 years. So that's driving the cost delta between, a project that would be, start design this year and be implemented within 2 years versus, phasing a project.
I had just maybe more of a request than a question. And I know there's a lot of conversations yet to come, but we've been experiencing warmer, hotter and hotter summers. We've had some athletes overcome by the heat. Turf fields do tend to run hotter. Could we also price in some considerations for, I know there's newer cooling systems for these fields, water systems, things like that, to keep them from being overwhelming, particularly in the summertime?
Yeah, we can look into that. Yep.
I have some questions about, everything. So for the lights, I believe we rent them currently? Yeah, what is the cost that the district has currently? Thank you. Thanks.
I think from what we heard, it was only for 2 home games
Oh, really?
per year. Is that?
Okay.
that
Oh,
sound
so
about
it's
right?
not, obviously not significant. And then when it comes to the stormwater, we have a massive problem on Philmont. Is there any way we can support the township with, because you're already doing some excavating, is there any way we can add a stormwater basin to help with some of that? I don't know, I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to that, but I just know that the flooding has been really, really bad.
That's all down in the floodplain of Huntington Valley Creek. Ideally, there wouldn't be a road down there at that elevation. Well, enough time and money can fix anything, right?
And then my last question is with regards to a different option for the field surface. I know the Eagles use a field that's a combination of hybrid and grass. I don't know if that has any kind of benefits. I just know that it is more common now within the pro sports teams.
And this was turf grass, right? This is, yeah, with the, this is the, when we say synthetic turf, we're referring to turf grass with the black beads, right? That's what's in this option right now. But yeah, we could look into other options as well.
Yeah, just because I know that it's probably more expensive, but it does offer some support, because I'm concerned about the kids getting injured and the carcinogens and all of that.
Yep. There's a lot of considerations that go into this. And you're not the only district to evaluate it. So there's, the question was asked earlier about, there is a trend definitely going towards synthetic for uptime. Obviously, you've got, days that you potentially wouldn't be able to utilize the field, or when you have overuse, you can't use it. But that uptime also usually comes with also adding lights. So if you don't have the lights, then you can't extend the time. So there's a lot of considerations there.
My last question is, how long does on average, the turf field, if we were going to do synthetic turf, how long before we have to do a full replacement of that?
Yeah, I can speak. So the carpet is basically a 10 to 12 year life cycle, and then that piece of it gets replaced. But everything below, the stormwater, the drainage basin, everything below the carpet is maintained. So I couldn't give you a dollar amount on just that piece of it. We did a recent study on logos, so 2 end zones and a central logo was just under $100,000 for the carpet and the beads. So $250,000 in today's dollars, I guess, in 10 to 15 years, to give you a rough idea.
So I have 2 final quick questions. One, are we doing, in a synthetic field, are we putting synthetics in the throwing area, or will that remain grass?
Would you have that figured as? Synthetic. Okay, yeah, all synthetic.
Okay.
Yep.
We could maintain that as grass,
You could, yeah. And it
depending
could
on
be
saving.
relocated in a different area, and it could stay grass, yep.
Okay. The final question, regardless of which options we choose, once we start to do something down there in terms of compliances, are there some of these that are non-negotiable? Did I make that clear?
From whose perspective? From the township's perspective, or from?
From a township or a legal perspective?
Yeah.
What would we have to do once we did something?
Yeah, good.
The ADA issues should be solved once you start doing major changes, that the building codes, kick in with that, and restrooms would be the other. That doesn't mean we could not put restrooms in the Murray Avenue School and have that as the source for public restrooms, but we'd have to show how that accessible path gets to the building, and that we are providing the proper number of plumbing fixtures for the number of people in the grandstands.
Okay.
Let me ask you, I know this is like a guesstimate, because you really don't know the materials that have gone into everything yet. But what would be the estimate of, it says it's 12.7. In all likelihood, what would that be? Because it's a precarious time with all the tariffs and all that kind of thing. What would that do to the pricing?
So the estimates that we've included here are in today's dollars, and then we do have some contingencies we've built in and soft costs, just like we've done in the past when we've budgeted projects for you guys. So there is a little bit of escalation in there. I can't tell you what the tariffs are going to do, but I think we've included maybe 10%. Is that about right? About 10% in for contingency in the estimating. Hopefully that covers some near-term inflation, but if a decision isn't made for the next couple of years and then this ends up dragging out, obviously these numbers would have to get refreshed as this goes further out.
Yeah, but generally, we feel that these numbers are.
Yeah, I mean,
accurate.
I think these numbers, like, we built in some of these contingencies to float for some time for a decision to be made. If that decision's made in the next, 6 months or so, these numbers are probably good numbers to work from. If it extends past that, we would probably want to revisit that together, right?
Mr. Geiger, do you have an additional question?
I do. I just wanted to be clear, when Mr. McKee asked about the throwing areas, was he referring to like the 3, the pole vault, and 12, just the field activities? Is that what you said? Yes, they would also be turf, 3 and 12, in addition to the field?
Yes, everything within the track area was figured as synthetic.
Okay, so outside of the track is 12, that would also be synthetic?
We didn't do anything.
Oh, that's not, just
No, that's what I
inside?
meant by throwing
I'm
area.
sorry, I thought you were talking about.
Is that what you meant, Frank?
So
The
like
outside?
number-
That's what I wanted to clear up. So, yeah, that's still grass.
Correct.
Okay, good. And fall sports, you mentioned fall sports, football, soccer, and what? Field hockey?
Field
That's a
hockey.
fall sport? Those would be the 3 sports using this field at this time?
Yeah, to my knowledge, that's how the athletic director would see it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, football's been there for a long time. I don't know if we've ever broken any windows or, you know, anything with Murray Avenue School might be okay. Soccer is a totally different thing with the ball, and field hockey might be a problem as well, requiring fencing. Okay. Didn't really have a question. I just needed to sort that out. Thanks.
All right, thanks. I have two general question areas. First has to do with timing, and the second with finances, and I think they're kind of related. So given that you're helping us with the 10 to 15-year facilities assessment and plan, are there optimal times where you think a project like this might be able to be timed to gain efficiencies, whether with cost, material, or anticipated renovations and fixes that we are planning? In particular, how might it fit into a greater renovation of Murray Avenue itself?
Good questions. I think you would want to time it so that this work was all completed before going through the summer, just like we would, you typically view school district projects as a summer project, right? So you'd want to have it phased so it's done before the fall season, and that would probably be a couple years out, but you can back that up to, let's just say if it's 2 falls from now, you'd want to kind of start the design process and the land development process, almost 2 years ahead of it completing. So from a timing perspective, I think that's what I would suggest. Now, from better pricing through the bidding, I don't know that you're going to gain any, any substantial, get any substantial cost deducts by going out to bid for these types of systems at a certain time of the year versus another time. But I don't know if you guys have any other comments on that. Go ahead.
If you did elect to pursue the Murray Avenue School location for public restrooms and ADA access, having that work done as part of when you're talking about bidding the renovations to Murray Avenue, sounds like that's what the plan might be. That could be something to consider, so that renovation, that portion of the renovation was done with the school.
I guess my question's in relation to financing, and this is to Ms. Ovington. I'd love to hear her thoughts, and I'm not expecting a full-fledged answers here, but obviously this would require a bond issue and some borrowing. And so I guess I'm trying to understand when might we, given some of the higher renovations that we might anticipate to be happening or needed in the near future, in the future, in terms of bundling these borrowings, to take on a project like this, in terms of, and how that would affect the timing. And then secondarily, and again, not expecting a full answer, but what other financing avenues do you have experience with, or might we be able to tap into, whether grants, external funding, sponsorships, community involvement, things like that we could potentially roll into this?
So I think you'd have to take a look from a broader perspective of everything that you needed to get done and look through the plans that have already been provided and prioritize where they are. I think they currently have a priority list in place and see where that would fit in, depending on a lot of things, interest rates at the time, where any borrowings we already have, if we could refinance them to help save any money moving into the future, that we could bundle that together. And then really just trying to figure out exactly how much you would want to spend on this, so you could figure out how to fold it into that. And if a Murray Avenue was a situation, reevaluate that and look at that holistically. If Murray Avenue is getting redone and including this as part of it, where does that now fall into the plan of priorities? There are other grants available with doing stormwater management. There may be other things out there through the county or through the state that might be available. If the state would ever pass a budget, we might know. There's also other things. I know when I worked in Norristown, we did redo a stadium there, and there were other grant opportunities available through the NFL and things like that that we could definitely explore and look into, as long as you have the backing of some of your youth sports. And I know you have Huntington Valley Athletic Association, which I'm thinking would definitely be advantageous in that type of proposal to an NFL type of situation. But there are definitely other avenues you could look at, and I think, again, with the stormwater management issue, if we're helping alleviate any of that in any way, we might be able to get some community buy-in for that as well.
Great, thank you. Are there other questions from the board? If not, I'd like to thank you for the presentation, and would it be possible for the board to, after some further thought, submit some further questions or requests for information? I know there are two board members that are not available today, so perhaps we could collect further comments or information requests from the board, and we can forward that to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we appreciate the questions and conversation. This is great. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Yep. Take care.
Great, our next item will be a superintendent's update. Dr. Best.
Good evening. Tonight's update is to share the work that has been progressing this summer to prepare for the upcoming school year. We are excitedly working towards launching our multi-tiered systems of supports, or MTSS program, in grades K through 8, which we are calling Lions Time. For just a refresher, this is a new K to 8 initiative that we're launching this year. It is a proactive approach for identifying and supporting students' academic needs, and the actual Lions Time is a daily dedicated block for reading and math, offering rehearsal, remediation, or enrichment for students as they need in small, flexible groups. Two other ancillary initiatives that are launching this summer and heading into the school year. One is an academic schedule evaluation process for Lower Moreland High School. We have a committee forming, led by the high school administration as well as the superintendent, to take a look at the academic schedule at the high school to see if there are ways for us to enhance student outcomes using a brain-based perspective. This will involve evaluating the current schedule, researching best practices, and looking at optimal models. And the process will include collection of stakeholder feedback via surveys and focus groups, with the hope of making a recommendation to the board at some point in the fall. We're also going to be taking a look at our middle school and Murray Avenue schedules as well, specifically reviewing our start and end times. Our goal is to create some sheltered time for faculty meetings, data team meetings, collaborative planning, and professional development for teachers within the contractual day that we don't have at those schools right now, but we do have at Pine and the high school. So we want to correct that inequity if possible. A few other things to mention. We're getting close to launching our new website and mobile app that comes along with it. That app will be available shortly in the Google Play and Apple stores. Our goals are to communicate better with families in an ADA-compliant manner, and to centralize our locations for website, the media app, and social media in one tool to be able to push out good news to the community. And finally, we are in the midst of an administrator professional development series as part of our way to grow our leadership team's capacity this summer. Some of our topics have included how technology impacts the brain in looking at our district cell phone plan, using AI tools for better efficiency to support students, how to identify and solve big problems using the Eisenhower framework as well as Stanford's design thinking framework. We are reviewing and refining our attendance and residency policies. And we are also taking a look at an LEA boot camp for enhanced special education supervision effectiveness, as well as comprehensive training on our student information system for our staff. So those are some of the many things we've been working on this summer to prepare for the upcoming school year. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you, Dr. Best. Any comments or questions from the board?
Just with this investigation in the high school schedules is something you'll come back to the board in the fall, I believe you said, but this will be something that's implemented not in 2025, 2026. This will be the following year?
Yeah, the intention would be to bring a recommendation to the board for a change in 26, 27.
Okay.
In order for that to be feasible, that would have to happen ahead of the course selection process for that school year. So our plan is to come with monthly updates to the board, as well as to provide weekly updates in the board report once we get rolling fairly soon.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. That'll take us to section 4, personnel. Ms. Galduk, would you mind taking us through the items A through E?
So I have, yeah, sorry, my microphone wasn't working. So I was saying, this is an exciting time in the HR office. We are welcoming new teachers to the district, and we have new hires. Lauren Ballou is recommended as an art teacher at the middle school. Alan Kaufman is recommended as a physics teacher at the high school. Megan Mark McFarland is recommended as a grade 5 teacher at Murray Avenue. Katie Lutzker is recommended as a science teacher, teaching primarily biology and environmental science at the high school. And Macy Morrison, she's a Lower Moreland graduate. She's recommended to teach Spanish. And we have one long-term substitute, Alana Floyd, who's a health and PE teacher, recommended for Pine Road. This would be through the third market period. We have 2 new technology assistants we're recommending for your approval, as well as a promotion of Greg Wygren as our lead technology assistant. And we have a number of resignations, unpaid leaves, and so forth. Those are listed in the chart. For tenure, we have a number of teachers who have 6 successful evaluations as a teacher, so they're being recommended for tenure, and you'll see that list. As well, we have a number of mentors who have taken on the challenge of mentoring our new teachers, so those names are listed there. And we also have the employee salary recommendations for the 25-26 school year. These are based on their merit evaluation, so this is merit pay basically for them. Any questions?
Any comments or questions for Ms. Galdo? Thank you. Can you take us through item B?
Certainly. So we're asking to extend the interim assistant principal agreement for Mike Devitt. He was originally approved for September 16th to January 20th of this year, and Megan Zay has extended her leave, so we asked to extend his appointment as well until January 30th. So it's the same pay rate as it was previously approved. It's basically a net zero cost because Ms. Zay will be unpaid leave at this time, so it won't be any additional cost to us.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Item C?
Item C is sorry, my things are sticking together, is a recommendation for a renewal agreement for Delta T. This is a staffing agency that we've used since 2015, primarily for paraprofessionals, but they also provide substitute nurses and substitute teachers. As I state, all staff are background checked according to the Pennsylvania Department of Education standards.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Item D, please.
Yes, item D is a memorandum of agreement between the district and SEIU Union 32BJ, which covers our custodial engineers. And we don't have, in our current agreement, contract with the SEIU, there's no language for how to deal with overtime, how to assign overtime. And so our custodial engineers worked with their union and proposed language that you'll see there in italicized letters about how overtime would be assigned. And so this was fine with us, so we're recommending that we just adopt the language that overtime will be assigned by building for the custodial engineer who works at the building to get the overtime. And if they're unable to take it, then it will be assigned according to seniority.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Item E.
Okay. This is also a memorandum of agreement between the district and SEIU Union 32BJ. They proposed, as in our last contract negotiations, they proposed a premium holiday, it's called. The district pays into their health and welfare fund a monthly amount for their custodial engineers. They proposed, because the the cost of claims hasn't kept up with the premiums are over exceeding what the claims amount has been. So they're in a good position. So they proposed that the monthly premiums for October 25 and October 2026, that they would be paid directly to the custodial engineers instead of paying them to the Health and Welfare Fund.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Great, thank you, Ms. Galley. That'll take us to Section 5, Teaching, Learning, and Community Engagement. Dr. Henrik, professional meetings.
Thank you. Our professional meetings, we have one art teacher who's attended the Art Ed Now conference. We also have Julie O'Malley, who is our special ed supervisor, who will be attending 2 conferences, one at Penn State and one through Corbett. That's really valuable because Julie then does turnaround training for our special education staff. So that's a very useful investment.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Item B, please.
So item B, we are requesting approval to enter an agreement with Frontline for their comparative analytics platform. It's a K-12 specific system that offers benchmarking, automates compliance reporting for PIMS and Future Ready PA Index. And I think from a district perspective, it provides insights for identifying achievement gaps, comparing us to other schools. That was something that was requested when I came in the fall, and we were able to pull that documentation. But if we have easier access to it, then it kind of aligns us with our partners who may be doing things more successfully than we are. And we can reach out and say, hey, what are you doing with? How are you doing this? And also lets us compare ourselves for recognition as well. So we would like to use this to increase our operational efficiency, enhance and enable our evidence-based resource allocation, and improve both student outcomes and organizational effectiveness for the district.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Dr. Henrik?
I have a question, Dr. Henrik. Is this a brand-new system to our district, or is this replacing sort of an outdated one?
Well, I think Mr. McGuinn would be very offended if we called him outdated, but this is like a
he's
more
not here.
efficient and effective way for us to get access to meaningful comparative data. It's not new. A lot of districts use Forecast 5, but I don't think that Lower Moreland, has used it because Mr. McGuinn is so dedicated with his tiny pencils and his pieces of paper. But I think this will give us almost as good information as Mr. McGuinn provides, but with a more efficient way of accessing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And don't tell him I said so.
Great, thank you. That'll take us to item 6, Buildings and Grounds. Ms. Ovington, overview.
Sure. So on the agenda tonight, you'll have applications for use for several of our facilities. We have the Lower Moreland Swim looking for the use of our facilities. At this time, they pay a $10,000 flat fee for the entire year. That is a new cost, and they are aware of that. We have Fetters Mill Fire Rescue. This is a retro approval for using the middle school parking lot for training. We have the high school band at Lower Moreland to middle school to host a concert band festival for local high school bands. We also have the HVAA for soccer, softball, and basketball. We also have a few other ones that are pending some signatures that'll be included next week. And again, that's another flat fee for $10,000 for the year. And then finally, we have our Girl Scouts at Pine Road. This is no fee, and they use Pine Road biweekly on Thursday evenings.
Could you please remind us what our previous flat fee was?
I believe it was $7,500.
And do you know how we compare it to other state-of-the-art buildings in the community that host events?
I think each district has their different form of fee schedules. A lot use where it's done hourly and you have to track it, and then you have to report hours back and forth, where this gives you that flat amount and a little more flexibility to be able to open it up to them.
But you don't have a sense from a similar flat fee? at a
I do
different-
not. We can look in it. I can ask other business managers
I'm
and find
curious.
out. Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Ovington? Great, thank you. We'll continue on to item 7, business and finance. Item A, please.
Sure. So we have our accounts payable checklist that's split into, we have 2 different runs for you. We have paying off from our prior fiscal year for 24-25, a little over $1.7 million. And then for our current fiscal year, for 25-26, payments in the amount of just about $2.3 million.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on item A? If not, we'll move to item B, please.
And then finally, we have our tax claim collection committee. Right now, this is honestly just an update to include myself as the initial delegate for the TCC delegate committee. It just takes Mr. Migwin off and adds me on.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Thank you, Ms. Ovington.
Thank you.
That'll take us to Section 8, Student Services. Mr. Giordano, would you mind taking us through items A through F?
Sure. Item A is a request approval of an agreement between the district and Lakeside Educational Network to provide student support counseling services at Murray Avenue and the middle school. This is for the upcoming school year. This one's a little confusing because the cover sheet is for the cost of 1 counselor. The contract with Lakeside is for the cost of 2 counselors. We actually used 2 student support counselors through Lakeside, one of which was as a position that's locally funded, previously approved by the board much earlier. That position was typically at Murray Avenue until we realigned buildings. That position is now at Pine Road, so that position's already been approved. The contract with Lakeside is for 2. The second position is for Murray Avenue and the middle school, which is grant funded through the county. However, we have an indication from the county that the grant will not continue. So if the grant has not been approved, or we have word that it's not going to continue before the next board meeting, we'll remove this item as a board agenda item and then have the contract revised to indicate just 1 counselor. Item B is requesting approval of the agreement between the district and the MCIU for what we call the cost plan, which is a detailed list of the services that we'll purchase from the IU for the upcoming school year to provide services for our students with IEPs. This is a pretty, roughly, the number really stays the same year per year. We don't really change much in the way of the services we get from the IU. That's item B. Item C is an agreement between the district and the Nexus School to provide educational services for student number 5786 as per the IP for the upcoming school year. That's a continuation of services from last school year for a student whose needs we cannot meet in the district. Item C is requesting approval of the pool council agreement between the district and our legal provider of legal services, Sweet Stephen Katz and Williams, for the upcoming school year. This is the pool council is really a pool that includes almost every district in the surrounding area to receive legal updates on current court cases, legal mandates and whatnot, and just legal updates of what the goings on in the world of special education and education in general. It also includes the ability for districts to, as a pool, ask a question and get an answer to the entire pool at the same time, as opposed to individual calls to attorneys and whatnot. It includes training provided if we choose to use trainings, one of which we are using actually next week. Dr. Betts mentioned the LEA training and trainings for staff, if we so desire, provided by our attorneys.
Just a quick question on that. So just given my experience with the Eastern Board, their council provides at their meetings a legal update, sometimes in text and newsletter format. Is that available to us? Is that something that we can disseminate to our board as well? Something like that?
Through the pool? Well, the pool doesn't really provide a legal update on a scheduled basis. It's really as things occur. So if there's a from the federal or state level, if there is a turn events that occurs, whether it's an executive order or it is some kind of court case that was decided upon or a due process hearing that had a certain, finding that is of relevance, then we will receive, an update from the pool council.
Okay, thank you.
And the cost is the same as the previous agreement, and which really hasn't changed in about 5 years. So, item E is requesting approval of an agreement between the district and Pediatric Therapeutic Services to continue to provide supports for the district in the area of behavioral supports, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. Typically, we had included speech therapy in this, where we have our increase of caseloads necessitated the hiring of a speech therapist for the district last year, so we no longer use PTS for that. We do use the services of a BCBA. We use occupational therapy, physical therapy, and this is a 3-year agreement with minimal increases over the 3 years. Really amounts to about $1 per year, per hour per year for services. We've used them for years. We are really satisfied with the quality of the providers that they send us, and they're one of the larger providers in the area. And this really is a decrease. This will be a decrease over last year's services because we've reduced the amount of registered behavior technicians we utilize through PTS. So that's a good thing. Lastly, we have an agreement between the district and the Timothy School to provide services for the upcoming school year as per the IEP for student number 8704 at a reduction in costs over last year's tuition costs due to the removal of the personal care assistant for the student due to progress that's being made.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano. Are there any comments or questions from the board on any of the items presented A through F? Great, thank you very much. That'll take us to Section 9, Technology. Apologies.
My name's Peter. Last name's Fallon, F-A-L-L-O-N.
Great.
I'm the network administrator. Currently, we are experiencing an issue with our current provider of our VMware system that manages our whole district infrastructure. Dell is the hardware provider, but Broadcom had purchased VxRail and the vSphere software program, and they've substantially increased the price of the system, basically doubling the cost. Has gone from a perpetual license, which we owned, to a subscription service, and they're trying to lock us into a 3-year contract at the higher price. They've also limited the type of software that you can buy from them. The Foundation Series software that we have is what we need, but they were forcing all customers to go to what's called Cloud Foundation, which is a lot more expensive. So basically, it's making our costs go much higher, and we're looking to switch to something that's comparable. It's called Hyper-V. It's a Microsoft product that we already use and already have access to, but the hardware would need to be replaced to accommodate the software. The breakdown in the pricing is in the documents there for you. Basically, it has come down in price from the original $212,000 to we've got them down to $198 and able to finance that as a lease, and basically run around $4,000 a month instead of approximately $100,000 that we would be forced to under the existing infrastructure.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Mr. Fallon?
Yep.
For a non-tech person like myself, I'm somewhat okay, but not. What is this again? This is a cloud service for our district that we...
Yeah, basically all the systems on our devices they're virtual, but the name of the software is cloud. It doesn't...
Okay.
Everything runs out of either the high school or Murray Avenue. We have 2 systems. One is a production server that runs all our VMs, which are all the servers that run everything in the district, and we have a disaster recovery at the new high school that is a backup. because of the licensing, the way they've changed it, where we owned the licenses previously, we have to go to a subscription service. Because we maintain a production and a disaster recovery, we basically are paying twice, double our existing costs, so software and hardware. And our licensing and our maintenance costs are due up this term anyhow, so we would be basically have to renew plus pay these additional fees.
Okay.
Are there any other models that would provide the disaster recovery capabilities that we are in need of?
Well, that's what we're doing now is the plan is to move to a new system and use our existing backup systems that we have, and then we also have an off-site redundancy. So it would save us from having to maintain both systems and give us the same level of service that we have. So we would have a production and a backup, but it would be off-site and not maintain two physical servers, basically systems in the buildings.
And so we're currently paying for this now, and this $4,000 a month for 60
Well,
months?
now, we pay for a service now. The $4,000 a month would be what would become the monthly payment. We wouldn't have to pay the maintenance and the software for the new system, which would be, it's roughly $25,000 per system plus maintenance. So you're talking about $100,000 to maintain the existing systems per year.
Okay, so we're going from 500,000 to 198,000.
Well, the $198,000 would be over 5 years. So it's $4,000 a month. So yes, I think in the breakdown, well, they don't show it here, but I could show you documentation, what the roughly cost would be about $500,000 over the term.
Okay.
If we decided to keep VX Rail, the VX and the vSphere software.
Okay, and we're not going to do that?
We hope not, if you.
Okay. I'm just trying to follow along with you.
The reason, because of the way the cost structure has gone, it's basically doubled. More, and some companies, it's because they're prioritizing larger businesses now, and they took over because Dell was selling it as a separate service, but Broadcom purchased the software in November 2023, and basically this term, they forced everyone off their existing licensing and moved to a subscription model.
Okay. Thank you. You've answered my questions.
Thank you for trying to educate us. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Fallon? Thank you very much. That'll take us to Section 10, School Board. We have first item A, an overnight trip request for the music department to Chicago, Illinois. Attached is the submission form and itinerary. Any comments or questions? If not, we'll move to item B, which are several overnight trips for the cross-country team for various changes. Sorry.
Dr. Lee, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I was a little slow. I would like, if possible, this is another overnight trip, Chicago, multiple days, and of course, we approved a couple last school year. We had the representatives, the faculty representatives come out and talk to us and kind of, if possible, ask them to come out to the next board meeting. I know it's the summer, probably not a time, but I think it's, the music directors, maybe we can have someone come out to the board meeting to discuss. This is a first-time Chicago trip, right, for the district?
I'm not sure if it's the first time for Chicago. We try every few years to do a music trip.
Okay.
I'm not sure where we're at in that cycle coming out of the pandemic, but it isn't a new thing for the music department to do a trip, but we could certainly have someone come out at a future board meeting to answer any questions.
Right.
Are there any specific questions you have, or?
It's just, like, this is a tour company, and much like the Spanish trips that we approved, the cost is high, per family. How much downtime are they going to have versus, because it looks like there's, on day 4, free time at the Magnificent Mile in Chicago. I would assume that's supervised and not just see in 2 hours, all, 100 students. So, those types of things.
Sure.
Because, we've approved band trips to Rockville, Maryland, Florida, you name it, but they weren't tour trips. I believe they were just going to a recording studio or doing, performing maybe one day, a weekend, and coming back. This looks more extensive than anything I've seen. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
what
we can certainly do that. The trip's not till May.
Yeah,
But we
right.
can have them out.
Before we approve it, let's
100%, yeah.
vet it a little more. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on item A? If not, item B is overnight trips for cross-country as listed for various championship meets. Any comments or questions on these several planned overnight trips?
Dr. Lee, the only thing I saw when I looked at this is it says here in policy that there has to be one chaperone for 12 students. One of the trips has 32 students or 30 students, so there's only 2 chaperones. So we're below, we need 3. And that would be the trip to Six Flags Great Adventure, Jacksonville. What is that one I just opened? Yeah, it's that PDF right there. If you look at the form, I think there's 30 students plus 2 chaperones. So we're under there. That's my only question.
Each trip will meet board policy or it won't run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for noticing that. If no other questions on the overnight trips for cross-country? Item C is a Bryn Athyn Academy of New Church facility rental agreement for outdoor turf and sports. For our fall sports programs, the approximate cost would be $3,500, reviewed by the solicitor as well. Are there any comments or questions, or any questions that we can forward to Mr. Dominic?
Is this an increased use of Bryn Athyn fields over, say, the last year or two?
Yes. Hi. Yes. I didn't mean to scare you. Yeah, this will be an increase in use of their fields for their turf for our fall sports. It'll be for soccer, lacrosse, and field hockey use this fall season.
For games?
Correct.
So
Yeah,
increase in terms of the amount of time that we're requesting, so we're utilizing them more, and they have the
Correct.
ability to allow the use of those.
Correct, yes. Now, with them not using their fields,
Yep.
we have the accessibility. So we have the opportunity now to do that rental and give the opportunity to more of our students for turf.
Yeah. Do you happen to know how much the approximate rental this year is compared to prior years?
I'm sorry, how much the,
The rental fee?
I know it's an increase, that it'll be approximately $3,500. I'm not sure what we paid prior year. I can look into that, though.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, we can provide that update in the board report.
Any comments or questions on item C?
Just a question about the usage. So with the use of this field, we could have, say, the varsity playing at our Valley Park, and then maybe the junior varsity playing at Bryn Athyn Field, so that the visiting team coming to Lower Moreland would be able to all play at 3:30 and then get on their way at like 5 o'clock. That's what the benefit of this is, rather than 3:30 to 4:30 and then 4:30 to, 6, if it's a visiting team. Is that what's going to happen? Is that how we're going to use the field?
That is part of the advantage. Some of the other pieces are just being able to play multiple games on a day, obviously not worrying as much about rain for consideration, and having equitable turf time for our programs.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
Do the students have to take a bus to the Bryn Athyn Fields, or do they walk?
They'll be transported.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Item D, We are to vote next meeting to approve the following students from Bryn Athens School District to enroll into the Lower Moreland Schools for the 25-26 year as per Board Policy 202. Any related services will be billed separately from the state tuition rate. There will be a 3rd, 9th, and 10th grade student enrolling, as discussed. Any comments or questions? Next, we'll discuss any issues related to items E through P, which are second readings of revised policies as listed and with accompanying board cover memos. Are there comments or questions on any of the second readings of revised policies as listed in items E through P? Thank you. If not, we'll move to any correspondence. Is there any discussion the board would like to raise agenda related? Is there any public comment this evening?
We do have one individual that signed up.
Great. Great. Thank you. As you approach the podium, I'll just remind our public that each speaker is asked to state their first and last name prior to addressing the board. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes. Speakers may not yield time to another speaker. Please use the podium, and please address your comments to the board as a whole or to the presiding officer. No comments should be directed to individual board members or district administrators. All public comments and responses must be in the spirit of civil discourse. Please be aware that all comments are being recorded. The board thanks you. Thanks the public in advance for your cooperation. Thank you.
Brian Howland, I live on Murray Avenue. Earlier this year, the board passed a 5% tax increase. Part of that tax increase discussion included an improvement to the district's bond rating. Earlier this year, the board passed capital expenditures that'll nearly deplete the capital fund. Last school year, the board received a report that there was nearly $100 million in deferred maintenance to district facilities. Now is not the time to add another 10 to 12 million to our debt. We do not need a stadium. Some people may want it. We had a very nice sales job earlier today on selling. They'll make a lot of money off of this, a stadium. We don't need it. You know, part of that idea was hatched when the Murray Avenue School was scheduled for demolition. There went the bathrooms. There went changing areas and places to go before the game and halftime. Lower Moreland's team just is in the lawn in between my house and the school. They never go in the school building. Their locker facilities is right across the street here. They just walk. We don't need a stadium. The existing bleachers don't need modification either. As a matter of fact, many years ago, there were bleachers where our consultants put some. If you go to a football game, most of the time, the stands are not full. I can't remember the last time, and I can see it from my house, that I went and looked out my window and the stadium was full of people. We don't need stands, right? For these and other reasons, it's time to say no to a stadium. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Good evening. My name is Janine Fay. I'm a parent of a player on the Lower Moreland football team. In fact, he's a captain of the team this year. It's my second time here at the board. I need to make more of a habit of it, I must say, for the record, and will do so. But the comment I would like to make, a request I would like to make of the board is that we have a meeting in which you can receive feedback from the parents, well, from the community writ large, of course, but from the parents and the players and athletes with respect to the facilities being discussed. I think there is a lot of room to move in there. I recognize that it's a tremendous amount of money. But I think that the students in particular the athletes, would have a lot to say about where they think the money ought to be spent. And I think it's important, vital, in fact, that we get that feedback. So not only from the parents, but from the students as well. So that would be my request. I am going to take one more second to say that I think I appreciate, again, the expense, but the board needs to recognize that if you really want to understand the impact, I suggest you come to a game and go to the bathroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Thank you again for public participation. If there are no objections, I will move to adjourn into our next meeting on August 19th at 7 p.m. As there are no objections, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.